Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Oh, sometimes I like to think that we have it all together and we know what we're doing and we can find the adventure of our lifetime and we know where we are and where we're going and all of that stuff. But you know something? Sometimes you just need a little guidance and a little help. And that's why one of my favorite people in the entire world is here. She's so organized. She lost my email for a month because she could.
User error.
Annie Delre is our guest today. She is a nationally she's a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And she's in lovely California somewhere. And I'm just so pleased that you're here. And I even stayed up late for you. How about that?
Thank you. I'm honored.
I'm more honored than you are. Because you are so good at what you do. And you're such a lively spirit. It is just so much fun to have you on the show, and I really appreciate you being here. So welcome, Annie. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. If my smile's not obvious.
Well, and that's the cool thing about you is your energy is there and your smile is there and your intelligence is there and you're able to put it all together and to help people do stuff that they might not otherwise be able to do, which is really, really cool. So welcome again.
Thank you. Thanks. I think it's cool too.
Exactly. Now you are a young thing. How did you get into coaching and become a nationally board certified? You're a real birdie, aren't you?
Am I giving bird vibes? Like, is my hair wild nest-like? I think I get it.
It's something. But how did you get into this practice of being a board certified coach?
Good job. That was good. It started with studying psychology. That was my bachelor's, studying psych, humans. Why are we like this? Why do we keep doing this to each other? And just studying people of all ages. And actually, let me take a step back. It was being in a dysfunctional home led me to be very curious.
I got question. And that is, I've been around the planet for a little while now. And when I was younger, people would say, we had a normal home. But then I've come to understand there is no such thing as you're way too young to get this reference, but Leave It to Beaver.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? I mean, I can't say I've watched every episode, but I know what you're talking about.
where June would be dressed up in her dress and she had the pearls on and dinner was perfect and he wore a suit and the kids were that doesn't happen in real life.
No, that's a no. Yeah.
So everybody, I thought that when my family was growing up that we were fairly normal. And then my brother, my sister, and I, when my brother was still alive, we got together one time and we started talking about our family. And it was like, did you grow up in the same house that I did? We all had a completely different experience of the same two people and the same three kids. It was remarkable. And so I began to study it and I learned that everybody, it's like, they all have their own thing going on and everybody's dysfunctional. So by the way, that means you've got a lot of work to do.
And also to the people listening, like, you're not alone. If you feel your family's dysfunctional, don't worry. Many others, if not most,
Yeah. Now,
also do.
now there is a degree, I will admit, there is a degree of dysfunctionality to
Mm,
where it can be a normal household, just you've got people that don't understand each other and don't love, but then there's houses where physical abuse is going on and other kinds of abuse and that kind of thing. And that I'd put in a slightly different category. How about you?
yeah, 100%. 100%. 100%. And verbal abuse can be just as challenging as physical abuse. But also the difference between someone saying to you a few times, "I'm disappointed in your grades," to "You're a complete idiot. You're never going to make it. Like, you're a disappointment to this family and everyone," So definitely. I think anything on the abuse scale, as opposed to like, "Oh, I was a strict upbringing." All right, well, strict is different to everyone. What does strict mean to you? Was it a military home?
Oh,
Like,
I knew people that came from military homes, and it was frightening what had happened to them because dad was a military guy and he was used to everybody behaving a certain way and saluting and all that kind of stuff, and it was
yeah.
hard. It was hard for those kids growing up. So we're all a little bit dysfunctional. So that got you
Mhm.
going with doing this, understanding that and wanting to improve. What's it like
Yeah.
being in psychology in college? I have no idea.
You meet a lot of interesting people. You meet a lot of interesting people. Um, so I will say that. Also, at the time, because this was still around 2010, and pretty much psychology equaled therapy, and that was it. You were a therapist or you went into pharmaceuticals. And maybe I'm exaggerating, but that's essentially how it was taught to me in my undergrad. Is do you want to be a therapist? And I was fascinated by humans and was fine to study trauma. I just didn't want that to be an everyday thing. I was like, you know what? I have enough of my own. Last a lifetime. I'm okay on that. But I do want to help people. I'm more than happy to learn the skills so I can support people, but I don't want that full time. And
Right.
then I learned then I learned about coaching because I was just reading self development books. Right, if you're into psych, you're usually looking into self development and growth. And I was like, "What the heck is this? What?" And then I just fell in love, and I was like, "I have to do this." I And this was around 2015, where no one took coaching that seriously. Like, maybe business coaches, they were respected, but if you heard the word life coach, it was a big eye roll. So that was
Well,
fun.
and you know why that was, is because I started, radio in 2003, and
Mhm.
coaching was just becoming a thing, but what it was, "Take this weekend course, and then you can be a certified life coach, and you'll know everything, and then you can put your shingle out there, and you've got this little piece of paper that says you're
Yeah.
a certified life coach, and so you are smart and you know everything." That's not how it works. It takes a lot of effort,
Oh,
and being a nationally board certified coach is different. How is it different?
yes. So that is, yeah, because the coaching world is scary. There is no licensure. That's terrifying because anyone could just wake up and be like, "I'm a coach today. I'm going to talk to you about your mental health."
I've had that happen on the show. "What's your background? How did you do it?" And back in 2003, it's like, "Well, I took this course over the weekend and it was really dynamic." It's like, what? You can't learn everything that you need to know in a weekend.
And now think there's online courses. It's like a 2-hour course and you're a coach.
Really?
What? Oh, it's so scary. There's free courses to call yourself a coach. And I'm like, and not that you have to pay out of the butt to do it. I happen to because I got my master's in it. So I paid $30,000 for it. But it doesn't have to be like that. But also, it shouldn't be a free course online that you can take in a few hours and then help people find out their life purpose. Like, what? Or yeah, just
it really it makes no sense to me because it takes, first of all, if you don't have a lot of life experience, and for my world, you have to be a little bit older, or you have to be as like to say, edumacated, um, so that you can understand everything that it's all about, and how people don't understand how the brain works, and how the
yeah.
left and the right and the front and the back and all that stuff, and that's really is necessary to get a good idea of what's going on with people, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's why I really appreciated psych, because it started teaching me about the brain. And I was like, wow. Or even brain injuries. And I'm like, well, this makes sense. Yeah, your brain is working against you. There was an injury, or even trauma, how it affects the brain. And then when I got into coaching and learned about mindset work and the conscious, unconscious mind, I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is a secret people don't know, and I need to tell this secret to everyone.
And there still is a lot of people who don't know, um,
Oh,
and it's not something that is generally out there, that people are talking about, because there still is a lot of misnomers about it, and there's a lot of misinformation.
yeah, that's a great word for it. Yeah. And that's like another example of someone waking up one day deciding that they're going to wear all white and call themselves a guru. And you're
I've
like,
had that happen too.
yes, because it happens. That's why I can joke about it, because it happens. Yeah.
I I have I have been around people who swear that they are guru-ish, and then they're mean to the waitress having breakfast. And it's like, a guru would not behave that way.
Right. Right. Uh, just because you look good in white doesn't mean that you're a guru. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is a
Oh,
lifelong pursuit, just like being a coach, like what you do, is a lifelong pursuit.
hmm, I think so too. I think, and that's another thing that I encourage people to look for when they're looking for a coach is, number one, what's the education behind it? Do they even have it? What's the year's experience? Because, if you've been coaching for 30 years, let's say, and there wasn't a ton of programs when you started, well, now you have 30 years experience. So, but also, what have you been studying lately? When's the last time you read a book, and what was that book?
Yeah.
But
So,
it's a simple question.
but it's a
It,
complicated answer.
well, when someone goes, the Grapes of Wrath, what's that book called from high school? Raps of Grape. What is it called?
Right, Grapes of Gravity. I don't remember. I never read it.
Terrible example, because I can't remember the name of it, right? I'm like, oh gosh, judging people for reading, and I can't think of a book name. But
Or
things such as that.
what's that book that all the mass murderers seem to be carrying around with them? It's the one that, the guy who killed John Lennon had in his pocket, and it was, I forget the name of it. Anyway, somebody will remind us, but it's
I hope so. Yeah.
but it'll come to me. But that's right, because you are constantly studying, constantly learning, aren't you?
Yes. My brain is forever on overdrive with learning, because there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's exciting to learn about yourself and other humans.
And each individual human has got their own, it's kind of like DNA. They've got their own little quirks and things, and you've got to figure out why people act the way that they do, why they respond the way that they do, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that takes a lot of work to get into. Okay, you're responding this way. What happened when you were 6 that caused you to respond this way? Is that some of the work that you have to go through?
Sometimes we'll touch upon it, but if one of my clients is spending too much time in the past, I'll just gently let them know this is good for therapy. You should really unpack this with a therapist. In coaching, we're going to concentrate on the future. So I do want to hold space for you for your childhood. Yes, that was wrong, or yes, you are a survivor. But also at this exact moment in life, we're not, or excuse me, this setting, like meaning a coaching call, we're not discussing trauma. I appreciate the background because it helps me know, like, if your dad's telling you you're a terrible person every day, yeah, I'm going to need to know that now that you're an adult and how, like, you're showing up at work or whatever. But for the most part, it's, um, I can't encourage victimhood. What are we doing about it now?
One of the things that, and I'm glad. Is your shingle open, and are you on call right now? Because I'm gonna need my therapy now, so I'm gonna have you use be my therapist. And it's like one of the most interesting things that I find in at least in my human experience is that I grew up in a household that my mom and dad were together,
Mhm.
kind of. My oldest sister was responsible for the younger 2 kids. My dad wanted everything to be quiet, and my mother wanted my sister, my older sister, to give us dinner and to take care of us, and there was not any overt feelings of love anywhere in the house. Now that is insidious because nobody recognized that that was as a 6-year-old kid, I didn't say, "Why isn't there more love in this house? And why doesn't mom have me on her lap? And why doesn't dad give me a attaboy? And what is going?" So none of that happened. I just assumed it was
Mm-mm.
normal, but it has consequences that lead into adulthood. At least for me and my family, is that do you find that it doesn't have to be an overt great big deal, but it can be kind of an insidious thing that just kind of happens to the family?
So two things on that. Number one, 100%. It does not have to be an extreme trauma in order for it to affect you for the rest of your life. And while studying the brain and the conscious and unconscious mind, what they say is up until the age of 7, you don't have the ability to question anything that's told to you. So you are downloading every single thing as if it's a fact. You don't even have the ability to say that's not true. You just take it as fact. So whatever, that's why they call it neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro, the brain, linguistic, the language, programming, meaning it's programming you. Why they call it TV programs, because it's programming you. That's why we cry. That's why we hate main character, or we hate certain characters. That's why we jump up when something scares us. Our body thinks it's in that horror room. That body thinks we are also getting yelled at in the movie, whatever it may be. So when you're 7 and you're seeing these things, it's normalized, whatever it may be. So if everyone's smoking cigarettes in the house, it's normal to smoke cigarettes. People curse here. If you didn't grow up with a TV, you don't think that's weird because, I mean, now it's a little harder because at school and there's social media and things like that. But so maybe not having a TV isn't the best example. But yeah, I mean, especially now that you're saying the age 6, definitely. And it's not until we're 7 plus that we're able to start somewhat thinking on our own.
There was a kid. I was 7. He was 7, and we had a mutual friend, and the friend was my best friend. And so
Mhm.
the 3 of us were playing in his backyard. Well, my best friend had to leave. He had to go home to have dinner or something. And here I was with this guy who I didn't know very well. And I said, "So what do you want to do?" And he looked at me and he said, "Get lost." And I said, and I pretended like I was, "Help, I'm lost, I'm lost." And, being and he said, "No, you idiot, get lost. I don't wanna see get out of here." I was 7. I took that for in my life, I took that for 20 years. That's how that can happen to us, isn't it?
These one little incident, the tiniest thing, totally. It goes right into our brain. We're that's why they make the joke about kids like they're little sponges, because they are. That one moment hit you so hard that it got ingrained. It got programmed. It programmed right into you.
And I remember it specifically to this day, word for word.
I bet.
This was 50 something years ago, almost 60. Oh, damn. By the way, we're talking with Henny Delre, and we need to take a quick break. I'm enjoying this conversation immensely, and I hope you guys are too, because she is really, 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 did I say really? She's really good. And we'll be right back after this quick message.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
Just kidding.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. And I always play that. That's the first one I always play because I want to wake everybody up and get everybody going. And
Yeah.
You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and we're talking to Annie Delre. She is a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And we're talking about, the human animal. We are so complex, aren't we?
Yes, we are. For the good and the bad, we are complex. Yes.
How do you help when you start working with somebody?
Mhm.
Is there like an intake form, or is there like an interview? Do you just kind of get to know people? How long does it take you? Because you're a professional and you can figure people out, I'm sure, pretty quickly. But how long does it really take to understand some of the issues that we have?
Well, what I will say is usually it's the same issues that come up over and over and over again. Just like themes as humans. So because of working with so many people, usually I'm able to pinpoint it pretty quickly. But also, so sometimes people come to me and they're like, I know exactly what I want to work on. I need help with time management. I'm diagnosed with ADHD. I just got the diagnosis. I'm realizing like I need help with this. And they're just very straightforward. Others are like, my health got out of control. I gained 40 pounds during COVID. And so they're very focused.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, a few of my clients gained 100 pounds over COVID.
Now that may
it's
be
not unheard of.
That's a few pizzas too many.
That's significant, but also think of how much depression there was during that time and things like that. I mean, you're losing your job, you're eating your feelings, you're home, you're cooking more. Well, maybe.
And you're home with a bunch of people who you may not necessarily like all that much.
Oh, I had moms crying on video telling me, I feel so much shame, but I hate my children. And I shouldn't laugh, but literally they were word for word saying, I feel shame, I hate my children. And I'm like, you're just spending too much time with them. Like literally you're locked in a house with them. Or I hate my partner, or, my roommate, I can't stand. But yeah, because you're locked in a room with them, essentially.
Yeah, it's that was a tough time period. But now coming out of it, things have changed, it seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
What has it been, a good change or a bad change?
I think because both. I think one of the positives is now people are able to compare to how bad it was. So for example, there may be more gratitude of, I can go to the movies now. Oh, concerts, like cool, they're back. Or I don't have to wear a mask anymore. Like things, just these little things that we used to take for granted because no one was planning for a pandemic to come up, right? No one was like reading the prep books on what to do when pandemics occur. So I think, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone was, I don't know. But what was I gonna say?
Well, the problem
Oh
with
yeah, the difference. Yeah.
yeah,
Go on.
okay. Well, the problem with the pandemic is that we never had one before in our lifetime that we knew of. And although 1980 with the AIDS pandemic was probably the next worst one. Um,
Mhm.
but that was 40 years ago. And how many
Yeah.
people are there that I mean, there are people that were not alive on 9/11 and they're voting. Now that's scary.
Wow.
So,
That is kind of mind blowing.
yeah,
Wow.
when you think about it, and so we are
Wow.
it's changing and it changes people. But now I've got a particular problem that you can help me with.
Okay.
Probably not. I've never had COVID.
Okay. Why is that a bad thing?
I don't want to have COVID. I don't want to go into a place where I might get COVID. So consequently, I stay home a lot because
Oh.
I don't want to go out. But that if I wasn't doing what I'm doing with the podcast and talking to outstanding people like you, I would be sitting in front of the TV, watching TV, drinking beer. And that's probably not a good lifelong pursuit.
Mm. Okay. So it does bother you that that's happening. You're not content.
Well, well, only if I wasn't like talking to you and like I've talked to
Mm.
6 people today and in different podcasts and different interviews and different things. And so I'm real busy and I get my human interaction, but there are people I live in a 55 plus community. And so
Yeah.
there are people that are older and they don't have what they haven't got the passion that I've got for what I'm doing. So they sit in their house 18 hours a day, they sleep, they watch television, they have their groceries delivered, and they don't get out and talk to people or
Mm.
and that's not good for anybody, is it?
As like a human species, we do crave community, but I will say some introverts, they are fine. They are fine to be by themselves. I do think you're missing I think that you are missing some joy though by not participating with people. So for example, you are participating. You're talking
Yeah.
to people. Um, but someone who like doesn't open the curtains or goes outside or gets any vitamin D, um, especially let's say if you're watching the news morning to night and you're getting a lot of pessimism and there's no optimistic person in your world, then yeah, I do think that that would lead to unhappiness.
Yeah, and do you remember when I was telling you that my dad he worked for Nordstrom, he worked 60 hours a week. He worked a lot. And when he came home, he wanted to be left alone. He wanted to eat peanuts and drink his beer, pet his dog, and get dinner and stuff. And so I, being a young, vivacious, always talking young lad, ended up in my room quite a little bit. And it's 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 like, "Go to your room." "Why?" "Because I said." "Why?" "Don't talk back, young man. Go to your room." And so I live alone. I'm perfectly happy living alone because that's how I grew up, was in my room. And so but I've broken out of that at least a little bit, so I get to talk to people like you, and I was social when I was younger and stuff, but there are people that are not, and it's interesting how what is it about our brain that causes us to do that kind of thing? To shut down and to go into my dad did that when he retired, uh,
Mm.
which was he was Mr. McDonald his whole working life, and then he retired, and then he was Jack. Now, he never
Mm.
got the idea of what Jack was or who Jack was, and so he didn't socialize with other people. He didn't go and seek other people out, and so he ended up sitting at home alone, watching the stock market, counting his money, and anyway, but that was,
And the highs and lows of those emotions of even watching the stock market.
oh, yeah, oh, yeah. So, but how do you help? Can you help people that fall into that trap? And what advice would you give them? We also need to talk about, you got a new program that you've
Oh, yeah.
are about ready to kick off, and I want to talk about that. But when we come back from this break, we need to take a station break real quick. But
Okay.
when we come back from that, I want to talk about, how do you help people learn how to help themselves and to be part of humanity again when they've kind of divorced themselves from it. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Did I scare you? There's it. Annie Delre is our guest. She is a nationally certified board coach thing, and does
I help people.
you help people. Now, at the end of your day, and I know that there are times when you're doing other jobs and stuff, but when you're working as a coach, at the end of the day, are you energized or exhausted?
Depending on the day. And just, yeah, depending on what conversations I had with someone, or my partner's amazing. So he brings me a lot of joy at the end of the day. I feel safe and comfortable and calm around him. So I'm very energized because he's there, but also just happy, just mellow, just happy to be relaxing. Like, actually, he and I are people who don't want to go out. So I know I'm extroverted, but I don't want to go out. I say no to plans often. Because I really like being alone. I like being alone with him. And I think it's worrisome when people don't like being alone. So, because that means you don't like yourself enough to be alone. So there are people who stay in and don't socialize, but they're miserable at home because they don't even like hanging out with themselves. And that's when it's a red flag.
I have a guy that I went to high school with, and I just found out that he got married for the 4th time. Oof. And I said to him, I said, "Why don't you just get a dog?"
Holy macaroni.
I said,
how did he respond?
He was like, "No, I love women." It's like, well, you only love them for a certain period of time, then you hate them, and then you get rid of them, then you go get another one. It's like, why? I don't understand why people. I understand people fall in love and they want to be together because it serves them, and it serves the love that they have for this particular human being. But just to go get married to somebody because you don't want to be alone, there's a lot of people that do that, I think.
Oh, are you kidding me? I'd say, and maybe I'm exaggerating, but I'd say more people than not date and marry just to have someone, as opposed to because that's their soulmate and they're madly in love. It's, I'm looking for my other half, but meaning that they already think they're only a half. It should be, I'm a whole person. I'm in love with another whole person. Let's have a partnership. Like, let's do this together. Not, I have a missing piece without you. Like, well, that's worrisome that you feel you have a missing piece.
Well, isn't it like they used to say, marriage is 50-50. And I think marriage is really 100%, 100%. Because you got to go into it as a whole person, not being needy for somebody else or somebody else's financial abilities. And like, I've known that to happen too, where people will get married because financially they are unsettled themselves. So they find
Yeah.
somebody that's got a nice career, and they might not be the right guy, and they might not really love them, but they get to go on trips now.
They love security. They like their black card or whatever the heck people have. They like their credit cards and vacations. Their Tesla.
But you have to be careful because sometimes karma comes back to bite you. And because that job situations change, and the ability to have a lot of money might change a little bit and stuff like that. So it's you go into, I guess, like you really love somebody. And it's Annie, I got to tell you, it's weird because our sample size of people that are marriageable and our age and have this is really, really small.
It can feel like that. I totally agree. But it's because there's how do I say this? How do I say this in an appropriate way?
Oh, go ahead and be inappropriate. That's okay.
It's just the idea of, because the people who are unhappy are usually louder than the happy people. So if you're truly happy, if you're truly content, I mean, really, like on the inside, you feel that way. You don't feel the need to brag. You don't feel the need to post 100 pictures on social media. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove to anyone. You're so busy loving your life and living in your authentic self that you don't have time to complain. You don't have time to stalk celebrities. You don't have time to know every news article that was put out that day. You don't have time. You're too busy living life.
That's so true, but that seems to be a minority of us. A lot of us are needy and have problems and stuff like that. So, which is one reason why it's really good that you're here.
Oh, happy to be that person.
If somebody wants to contact you, how do they get that done?
I would say going to my website.
Good beginning.
Go to my website. Excuse me?
That's a good beginning.
Yeah, I'd say right there, only because social media is fine. You'll see me on social media. You just type in Annie Delre. I'm the only person with my name. Like if you Google Annie Delre, I'm literally the only person, which I guess is a good or a bad thing. I don't know. I have nothing to hide, so you won't find anything shocking. But the website goes right to my email. Like it will be personally me. It won't be someone helping me. It will just be me. So
now you have taken a little bit of time and you have worked to develop a particular course and a program, which you haven't launched yet, but you are on the precipice of launching this brand new huge thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you share with us a little bit about
it? Because the sales page will be updated by the end of the night. So this is hot off the press.
This is happening, baby. It's happening now.
This
really
is on this way. Yes. So it's an online course. It's self-paced. I realize that with people, there's some people like myself where I'm like, give me an online course. I will inhale this. I will do the exercises. I'm good. Then there's other people who are like, yeah, I'll buy the course and I'll probably never even log in. Like I was excited when I read about it or I watched module 1, then I just forgot it existed. So for those people, I offer tech support, or video. So you still do the program, but you have more hand holding because some people need that. But the course alone, honestly, even if there's 3 pillars, even if someone just did one, it would change their life. That's how confident I am in the course. It will change a person's life.
And how so? How will it do that?
Let me tell you.
Please.
So let me break that down. So pillar 1, you're learning about who you are. What's my values? What are my strengths? There's even a whole module on your life purpose. Like, really, why am I here? Why am I here? Then the next module is about, well, why are you like this? So you're learning about your habits, you're learning about your motivation, and just kind of more curious and open-minded, not judgmental, just like, why? Okay, now I know. And then the third module is action steps, goal setting. You're getting this done, teaching more about the growth mindset. So allowing these people to not just learn about themselves, because that's super important, but also, great, I have this information. Now what am I going to do? And the program is supposed to be step by step. This is what you do, but also I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving you the instruction manual for you to do fill in the blank with what works for you.
Oh, that could be really helpful. Yeah. That could be really helpful for somebody, because a lot of times people say, what does she know? But if you are delving into your own things and coming up with your own answers based upon the questions that are there and the criteria that they're following through and the exercises, then it's a lot easier to figure it out for yourself, I think.
Yeah. And I give examples, and I don't think I've said this on the show. I'm sure I've told you multiple times, but I've worked with over 650 people. There are themes, there are common things people are working on. So in the modules and in the exercises, I'll say, for example, I'll even give people check boxes who don't want to type out everything. Like, this may be you. They always get the opportunity to write what they want, but I also don't want the course to be stressful. I want it to be insightful and helpful. So if finance is the struggle, they can write about finance. If it's health, they can write about health. If it's relationship, they can. I leave it open-ended. This is your motivation for life. These are your habits for life. It's not for this one thing, because we all are different and we all have struggles. And just because one person may be struggling with finance right now doesn't mean this other person isn't struggling just as much with their relationship. Same age, maybe even have the same name, right? Like, it might be 2 Joes that are both 30 years old, that are both, living on the East Coast. But just like you were saying with your family being all in the same house, but you didn't have the same childhood. I'm one of 6. We didn't all have the same childhood.
Yeah, it is so it is so interesting. And see, I'm older than you, and so I know why I'm older than most. But there are some reasons. I have a Super 8 video. It was a movie back then, and they had a movie camera, and it was a Super 8, and this is right about 1960. I'm 3 years old, and they're having a party. This is how much our world has changed in that time.
Okay.
We're having a party, and there were several kids, 2 of which were in diapers, that were crawling all over the couch and in front of and around and under the feet of these people having this party. And there were like 3 couples in these 2 couches, and there was a coffee table right in the middle, and there was a great big ashtray in the middle of the coffee table, and everybody was dumping their ashes in there, and everybody was smoking, except for the kids, of course. And there was a half-gallon bottle of Jim Beam that was
Okay.
right in the middle of the table, and people were like, "Yeah, give me another shot of that Jim Beam," and stuff. And people would no more do that today than at least they hide it a little bit better. but in those days, and so consequently, I was 3 years old, and so it became imprinted on me that smoking cigarettes was cool because
Yeah,
everybody did it when I was 3,
everyone did it.
and I'll never
The
forget.
celebrities were, yeah.
Yeah, and, I'll never forget, I would drive in the car with my dad who smoked in the car. Secondhand smoke wasn't a thing back then,
No,
and
yeah.
I just loved the smell of the secondhand tobacco as he was driving, so like, "Oh, that's really nice," and so quitting smoking for my brother, he died of stage 4 lung cancer. It was not possible, and quitting smoking for me is very difficult. So, but that's how we get imprinted in our life. And
Yep.
it takes a lot of effort and a lot of effort and a lot of help to change that for many of us.
Yeah. And something that I learned that was, and I learned this from my brother. It was a hard lesson, but that you can't want something more than the other person wants it. So we have to want it in ourselves. It's not because our partner wants it, our parent wanted it, um, our kids want it. It's really up to us as individuals, and vice versa. Like, we might want the best for our kids, but you can't will it into happening. They have to want to do it. Also, I'm
It
sorry to hear of your brother. I'm sorry to hear of that loss.
well, it happens. Of course, he was anyway. But he was 64, and so I like to now say that I'm older than my older brother. Uh,
You're like, I have that to say though.
Yeah. So, but that's part of life. What do you do? I got to ask you because there are some older people are watching this, and I want your
Yeah.
help with this because I'm now at an age where people are dying. I went to high school with my best friend from high school. He's passed away. My high school sweetheart. We had a group of 4 of us. She's passed away, and they were in their early to mid 60s. It's like, what is going on? Why are people dying? And how do you cope with that? Because there are a lot of people that have a really hard time coping with people dying around them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Um, I think one of the first things is understanding that, and I don't know if this sounds cliche or whatever, but grief is a process. It's not just that first month of loss that it's the hardest. It's not like that at all, because anniversaries come up, birthdays come up, holidays come up. It is truly a constant reminder throughout the year that someone is missing in your life. And that's a tragedy. And I'm sure you've seen this in someone, if not yourself, is maybe when the person first passed away, it was upsetting, but then a few months later, a few years later, it hits you like a ton of bricks and you're like unable to get out of bed because the grief is overwhelming. The and that's usually our body's protecting us. It thinks it's protecting us. Especially people who like go back to work a week after someone very close to them passed away and they're just working, working, working. And I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then 3 months go by, they are super ill, they're run down, they have nothing left to give, they have compassion fatigue, and they just snap. And because their body let their guard down and was like, yeah, we no longer can protect you. You're going to have to feel this now. So
It's
that's
in
something I would tell people first.
well,
Understand this is long.
and the other thing is that it isn't the first year. It isn't the first Christmas, isn't the first anniversary, because everybody's there for you. They recognize, oh, it's the
Oh,
first
great
one.
call.
It's the first one. And then the tough part is year 2 and 3 when they're going, she's over it now. No,
Yeah.
because it's at Christmas, you remember what it was like, and now it's not like that anymore. And
Hmm.
there's no, and everybody else is going about their lives. It makes it really hard for some people.
Definitely. Definitely. And I mean, whether it was your best friend or a parent that you had a terrible relationship with, a lot of guilt or shame can come up, even anger. That's another thing that I talk to clients about is if you're angry, it's okay. You can be angry at that person. It doesn't make you a horrible person.
Yeah.
Anger is totally normal. If it's okay to be angry at yourself for not calling them more, and it's okay to be angry at them for all the terrible things they did to you. Just because they passed doesn't mean you have to forget everything about them. Should you go on social media and talk bad about them? No. Should you go on their grave and spit on it? No. But you're allowed to feel all the emotions that come with someone passing. It's grief.
And I got to tell you something. I was very proud of myself. I think you'd be proud of me too. But I need to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're talking with Annie Delre. And you go to anniedelre.com and find out all about her. Work with her. She is a wonderful coach. And she's a little irreverent from time to time, which is, in my way of thinking, is absolutely perfect. So we'll be right back.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. I was just going to say, that commercial is for my generation. The old folks, don't take our money from us, please. But I was just gonna say that my high school sweetheart, I found out that she passed away. We were together for 2 years, but it was one of those relationships when it was like, we've been together for 19 months now, or 20 months. You remember those when you were your first love that you ever had and all that kind of stuff? Well, that imprinted me for 50 years. And it did, and it affected that relationship, affected every other relationship I had with a woman going forward. But I didn't have the good sense to go find a coach to help me and get through some of that stuff. And so there's a memorial page for my high school that people keep adding to because people keep dying. And so I put her a little memorial for her and her husband, who basically stole her from me because I knew him well. He was my backup on the football team, and he ended up marrying her, and they were married for like 40 something years. And I gave my condolences to Paul for that happening. So I thought I was being very righteous about that whole thing.
You're so mature. You're so mature. Wow.
Well, but you need to explain this to me. And you tell me if this has happened to a lot of people that you've worked with. And I haven't figured out why yet. And I probably will at one point. I've had 3 different relationships end because the person I was dating ended up dating somebody that I knew before either of us knew them. Does that make any sense at all?
So you weren't the one who introduced them?
No, but I knew the guy years before they met. And then she had an affair or went off with him and left me. That happened 3 different times in my life. It's kind of like, why would that keep happening to me? I need to find that out.
Where are you finding these women? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No.
Well, like I said, my sample size was small. Not yet, anyway. But one of these days, you and I are going to have to sit down and talk about that, because that is the weirdest thing in my life that I found out that has happened, and 3 different times, and with 3 different women and 3 different guys, all of which I knew intimately.
Yeah, that sounds like some deep-rooted things going on.
Like,
why are we attracting people who do that? Why is there tendencies to not be loyal? Loyalty means a lot to me. Why are these people not loyal? Yeah.
I need to talk to you more, because why did my wife end up acting like my mother? That's what I want.
I mean,
that's a Freud thing, I think.
I was literally just going to say that to you. Let's get Freud in here. Someone do a seance.
Exactly. Annie Delre, I just love talking to you, and we have the most fun. So
You're the best.
We're gonna do this more, I promise. And but we've just got a couple of minutes left, and I would like you to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
I guess it's, if you are that person that's sitting home and you'd rather not be, to start looking into what you like. So I'm not even saying go out and join a group. I just mean start figuring out what you like. Do you like painting? Go on Amazon and buy literally like a $10 paint set, or go to the dollar store and buy it. And see, is it that you like being alone, or is it that you don't even like yourself? If I'm not articulating this great. Okay, forget that. Let's scrap that, because I'm not doing the best job explaining it. This is my advice, all right? Forget that. We're just erasing that from your brain. This would be my number one advice, actually, is focusing on what you can control. So for little kiddos, I do the circle with my hands. I'm like, this is the circle of control. In here is what we control. Everything outside we cannot control. So I'll even give an example like, all right, we can't control the weather, right? Do you control when it rains? And of course they're like, no, I don't control the rain. And I'll say, but we can control what we wear. And if you bring an umbrella, and so can you control if your boss is demeaning to you? You can't control his actions. You can control how you react. You can control if you work there. You can control if you report him to HR. So, or let's say you were telling me you were home and you're absolutely miserable and all you want to do is date and you can't. Well, what can you control? Well, you can control if you go on a dating site, or if you meet up with singles, or if you start telling family and friends that you're interested in dating. You can't control who's going to be at the grocery store, but you can control if you talk to that woman where you both reach for the apple and look in each other's eyes. Making this up. I'm making that part up, but that's my probably biggest life lesson. What can you control? And start focusing more on that, as opposed to spending all of our energy on what we can't control, which most people do.
Because we can't control it. And so because we can't control it, we waste our time. And stuff. You know, I had a friend, I still have that friend, and he has 7 children. And he said, well, why aren't you dating? And I said, well, Nathan, let me tell you this way. If you were to pass away, I think your wife is very attractive. I might want to date your wife, but she has 7 children, and they have 15 grandchildren. And I don't want to go be the guy at Christmas who doesn't know a soul and wanders into the house and all these people I have to meet and I have to be on display. No, thank you. I wouldn't do that. So I like your wife, but I wouldn't want to marry her.
Was he shocked by this example?
Well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I'd be like, what?
He's not my friend anymore. No, I'm kidding.
Right? And that's the last day we ever talked.
and it was a good conversation after all. Again, we've been talking with Annie Delre. And Annie, I want to thank you so much. Will you come back on a regular basis? I just love talking to you.
That's exactly what I want. I love talking to you. I have so much fun.
It's a good time, and you can help people. By the way, if you are not aware that being a coach, or that working with a coach is good for you, I believe everybody needs a coach. Everybody does. I have one, and because I even do a show that has a bunch of coaches on it, and I still have a coach because she can give me insights that I cannot find for myself. So it really makes it better. So go to Annie Delre. Spell your last name so they get it.
Okay. Delre.
.com. And you can get all the information you can about her, and give her a call. You can do this online, and you can work with her or get her over the weekend. Next weekend, the new program may be out. Yeah, or is it going to be taking longer?
Oh yeah, tonight it'll be good to go.
Oh, very nice. So go to AnnieDelre.com and get the new program and start working on yourself, because you know what?
Yeah.
You're worth it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin